good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio, and yeah, I'm still a bit croaky. I apologise. Words was rough on my voice. But we've got a new V-Star that we need to be talking about, so let's have a chat about Mawile. And I'm going to say this right off the bat. This looks like a good V-Star. This looks like the kind of thing that I can get a little bit excited about. So with all that borne in mind, I should say our translations here do come from the lovely Antoine Boulet, although as has become somewhat of a tradition lately, I've had a good go myself. So some from Antoine, some from me. Yay! Now starting off with Mawile V here, what we've got is 200 HP, which is on the lower end. We are of course a psychic Pokemon because of the whole fairy thing. And what we've got is single energy, 30 damage, flip a coin. If heads, discard 1 energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. It's not great. Now, I'm not saying it's bad, because I don't think it is bad. If I thought it was bad, I'd tell you I thought it was bad. It's fine. This is really best for those situations where your opponent is playing a deck that relies on manually attaching energy. So, essentially, what you do is they attach, you deal 30 damage and remove it, and what you're essentially hoping for here is that your opponent whiffs an energy attachment or two, and then from there you can start jumping ahead in the game. It's not particularly amazing, and I'm not going to pretend for a second that it is, but I do think it's a little bit useful. It's one of those, as I like to put it, it's a nice bonus that will work in some situations, but it's not an attack on which you should be relying. As for the second attack here, free colourless energy, 100 damage, discard a random card from your opponent's hand. Now, again, just like I said a minute ago, this is not a good attack. This is not an attack around which your entire game plan is likely to revolve. But this is an extremely interesting attack, for a couple of reasons. I mean, first of all, colourless energy. Like, this will do 100 damage in a deck that isn't playing Psychic Energy to a Pokemon that is Psychic weak. And I actually love that. I dig that. That's really cool. Because sometimes you need a Psychic attacker, but you're not willing to play Psychic Energy. Hey, free colourless energy, 100 damage. Now, you will probably need to boost it a little bit, because remember, 220 is generally what we see as the number for trying to get KOs on Pokemon V. So if you're sitting here rocking 100, doubled is 200, it's not quite enough. There's a million different things you can do. You know, something simple like Choice Belt will get you there quite quickly. But please do bear in mind that damage-wise, you are really 10 away from where you want to be. But you do get to discard a random card from your opponent's hand. And I actually really like that. It's a little bit of disruption. And again, discarding, one card from your opponent's hand, it's not exactly going to be a game changer every single game. There will be some games where you grab your opponent's only supporter and they whiff for a couple of turns. There are going to be some games where you grab your opponent's only energy and they whiff for a couple of turns. And in those games, its attack is going to be phenomenal. But essentially, this is best if you ever find your opponent with a 1-card hand. This is great. If your opponent really needs boss's orders to win the game, and you're pretty sure they've only got 1 left, it's worth potentially trying to grab it out of their hand, because if they play it, they win. If you grab it out of their hand, they lose. Something along those lines. Or as just a colourless energy psychic attacker. No, it's not stunning, and I'm not going to pretend it is. But what we've got here are 2 useful attacks, if nothing else. But then we get to the V-Star. Now, we go up to 260, and with 280 being the kind of top level for V-Star, that does put this a little bit lower than the top level V-Star. But we have an attack for 2 colourless energy that does 90 damage, but if this Pokemon was on your bench this turn, this attack does 90 more damage. And once again, I want to remind you of what I just said a minute ago about the other attack. This uses colourless energy. And the fact that this uses colourless energy is absolutely huge, because it means you've got a legitimate answer. I told you that 100 damage just wasn't enough, because you need 220 to KO Pokemon V. Well, here, you're actually doing 360, which will not just get Pokemon V, and it won't even just get Pokemon V-Star, it will actually get Pokemon V-Max. If you're hitting for weakness here, this will get anything. If you're not hitting for weakness, you'll get weaker support Pokemon like Luminion, as an example. And if you add a choice bout on, you'll be doing 210, which is not the number. Remember, 220 is the number, but 210 will still get a lot of Pokemon V. You aren't getting all the Pokemon V, and I'm not going to pretend you are, but you are at least getting a little bit closer. You're getting the majority of them. And I absolutely adore this. I think this is a really good attack. Sure, it's got to be on your bench and then become active, but firstly, you can just switch. But secondly, you've got stuff like Cross Switcher. I mean, this is phenomenal with Cross Switcher. Because, of course, Cross Switcher, you've got to play two at the same time, but it's like Guzma was. It's Switch plus Gusting. So you gust up the Pokemon you want to KO, combined with switching this active, which means it's then become active, which means you then get to do 180. Now, as for the damage, it really depends what you're going for. If you're hitting for weakness, double Turbo Energy is absolutely fine. Because then you're hitting 160, double is 320, that's any Pokemon V, any Pokemon V-Star, and to be honest with you, most of the Pokemon V-Max. So this is good. If you're not hitting for weakness, 160 is a bit low. You're talking kind of single prize territory. You get single prize Pokemon, but you won't get very much else. And that is disappointing. But of course, you're a Pokemon V. So you could play this in a water deck with Melanie, as an example. Because Melanie attaches to Pokemon V. It's not a card that sees a huge amount of play, but Turbo Patch is still legal and would absolutely work here very nicely indeed. Or, of course, you could just play it in an Arceus deck. And generally what you do kind of in the earlier game, you'd accelerate one energy to this with Arceus, and then it is essentially, as you go through the game, a single energy attacker, as an example, which would work very, very nicely indeed. So you know what? I really like this. I think the attacks on the Pokemon V are a handy bonus, but I think the attack on the V-Star is just great. Yes, I do think it's quite low in terms of HP, and yes, the damage is not amazing, but there is a lot to really like here. Oh yeah, and we've even got a really good V-Star power as well. You may use this ability during your turn if this Pokemon is on your bench. Switch this Pokemon with your active, and then switch your opponent's active with one of their bench. Yeah, it's literally Cross Switcher, or Guzma. It is a switch plus Gusting, which is phenomenal. Now, firstly, the combo here with Mawile itself, I mean, let's write itself, yeah? This is easy. This is fine. However, this is just generally good. Now, I know V-Stars are single evolution Pokemon, pseudo stage 1s. They're not stage 1s, but, you know, they're single evolution. So pseudo stage 1, I think, fits. But the thing is, what we basically got here is Gusting. Now, it's not the only one that gusts, of course. Let's not forget that Leafeon V-Star absolutely remains a thing. Leafeon V-Star, it just sits on the bench and it is Gusting. And that's what it does. This is Switch plus Gusting, so I'm going to leave up to you which one you like more. But remember, this has got a colorless attack, which hits Psychic Weakness. So if you want Gusting, this is way better than Leafeon V-Star. And I do think that Leafeon V-Star has never actually, as far as I'm aware, seen any significant play as just a sit-on-your-bench Gusting. But this is just way better than it. And remember, your opponent can't play something like a Marnie or a Roxanne to stop you having Gusting, because it just sits on your bench. Now, your opponent can play a Path to the Peak, and that will mean that you're not able to use this, but your opponent's got to get that down. How many times have we seen your opponent hope you don't draw into the Gusting to win the game? Well, here this isn't an issue. You're going to draw into the Gusting, because Mawile is sitting on your bench, ready to gust, and that is absolutely beautiful. I love this. I think generally just using this as an attacker is fine, but slightly lower than we would like. But I think if you combine the 2 energy phenomenal counter against anything weak to Psychic with the really good V-Star power, we've got a great Pokemon here, and I'm giving this between 4 and 5 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. I do think we are really onto something here, and I am a really big fan. But I want to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts! Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi. That's where we talk Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games and all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord and chat some Pokemon. This week on the bonus pod, I'm going to be telling you all about my Worlds experience, which was amazing. And we give shout outs to very lovely people like Jez Herford, who is one of our newer Patreons and is a very lovely person. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.